This morning, we've been talking about the reporting from the Wall Street Journal and NBC News that Donald Trump was the third person in the room in an August 2015 meeting when his lawyer, Trump was the third person in the room in an August 2015 meeting when his lawyer, Michael Cohen, and National Enquirer publisher David Pecker discussed ways the tabloid could help counter negative stories about Trump and women. One of those women at the center of the AMI hush money payment was Karen McDougal. Joining us now, her former lawyer, Peter Strzok. And Peter, I just wonder, looking back, especially if the Justice Department thinks that Trump is an unindicted co-conspirator in the case, but they can't indict a sitting president. What is the statute of limitations on this? What is the process for accountability? Is there one?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back on your program. And let me start by saying what a difference 9 months makes, right? Because when we sued AMI 9 months ago, arguing that this was an illegal catch and kill contract, the defense was basically to lie. Catch and kill contract, the defense was basically to lie. And AMI is, I mean, you've dealt with the National Enquirer, so you know, but you know, AMI said, well, no, this was just a modeling contract, and the president denied everything, and now we know that for sure that that's not the case. We heard the president on tape with Michael Cohen talking about David Pecker potentially being hit by a bus. We have AMI admitting that this was a direct coordination with the president of the United States. And so to your question, really, the issue is that the defense has morphed. And Rudy Giuliani is now teasing out the new defense, which is that the Edwards defense. Essentially, what was done here was not illegal in the first place. And there's a terrific article by my friend Neil Katyal in the Washington Post today that basically explains how the walls are closing in, and that's just not a credible defense anymore. So as to the statute of limitations and accountability, you know, on the political side, there's the question that, you know, your guests have been talking about today, which is there the political will to do something about this? And on the legal side, the question is, well, you know, is the president going to be elected to a new term? Because if not, certainly there's not a statute of limitations problem. And if he is elected to a new term, is it the case that this type of behavior that was not an act committed while in office, but rather to obtain the office, does that fall within the DOJ policy? So there's a lot of moving parts here, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens in the next 9 months.
Hey, Peter, it's Willie Geist. Thanks for coming on again. It's good to see you. Was there any question in your mind, or is there any question in Karen McDougal's mind, just to underline this one more time, that she had an affair with the President of the United States? Because the argument that he and his legal team have made is, yes, maybe we paid these off to protect the family to make these bogus allegations go away. Any doubt that there was an affair?
No. I mean, I'm not going to speak for Karen. I've said this all along. I'm going to speak for myself. But there's no doubt in my mind. And I don't think there's any doubt in the minds of any fair-minded person who's followed the process. You know, when we first brought this lawsuit and I went on the morning shows, I said this was not about publicity. And I remember Gayle King kind of laughing at that. And my response was, you're going to see Karen once. She's going to talk to Anderson Cooper. She's going to, in her words, tell her story. And, you know, that's what you're going to see. And the American public saw that. And I don't really think that anyone who watched Karen and who's watched the president throughout this process really believes the denials of the relationship that they had.
Peter, Susan Del Percio here. When you look at the facts as they've come out on this case, it seems that everything happened as a matter of course. I mean, when you go back and review everything from the beginning, does this seem like something that they could have done before, that Donald Trump could have done before? I'm not saying it involves campaign finance violations, but perhaps this is part of a pattern that Donald Trump has been in?
Well, from our perspective, and we said this from day one, we knew what we saw. And what we saw was very troubling collusion between Karen's own lawyer at the time and American media. And when we brought this lawsuit, it was because of terrific reporting by the media that we were learning about the type of things that were happening. And as far as your question about a pattern, as the media reported things, you saw patterns in many different ways. You saw patterns involving Michael Cohen. You saw patterns involving Keith Davidson. And you certainly saw patterns involving the National Enquirer and Donald Trump. So I think the way I would answer that is I would say I think this is just the beginning. Everyone has a role to play in this type of process. And, for us, we settled the case with the National Enquirer in April, and then we sat back and it took restraint. But like the rest of the American public, we stepped aside and we waited for the process to unfold. And I think that many new things are going to come out with regard to put it broadly, election law violations that go beyond the type of things that people are discussing today.
Sam Stein has a question. Sam?
Yeah, Peter, that's sort of what I wanted to get at with this question. And to be very specific, when Karen McDougal was in discussions with AMI about the acquisition of her story in the fall of 2016, did either they or a representative of the Trump Organization or Donald Trump's campaign ever explicitly make it clear that they were entering into those negotiations for the purposes of the campaign itself, i.e. doing it because the election was near? Is there anything in written writing, or was it anything expressed orally over the phone, for instance, that was explicitly tying the acquisition to the campaign?
So I'll say two things about that. The first one is that, as we said from the beginning, the interactions that Karen was having were through her lawyer and with AMI. And so she was learning things throughout this process, just like the American public was learning things. So there was really no hiding of the ball on our part in terms of what she knew and when she knew it with regard to Michael Cohen, the president, et cetera. The second thing is, I'm certainly not going to comment on anything that's not public. Our representation of Karen ended when we settled with AMI in April, and even if I still represented Karen, I certainly would be very cautious about referring to information having anything to do with that representation. But what I can tell you is that I represent other clients, and I've been involved in other matters kind of involving this orbit. And this really is just the beginning of this part of the story, the kind of pivot on the part of Trump world to the suggestion that this is just like a traffic ticket. These are minor infractions. I'm happy to go on record right now and say that if I were sitting where they are, I wouldn't want to be making a claim like that, because it's clearly not the case.
Peter Strzok, thank you very much for being on the show this morning. And coming up, could Jared Kushner be in a position of approving himself to be his father-in-law's next chief of staff? We'll have that new reporting ahead. Plus, much more on the legal trouble swirling around the president as he continues to change his story about the hush money payments. We'll hear more from Michael Cohen, who is breaking his silence after getting sentenced to prison, saying Trump knew about the payments and knew they were wrong. Morning Joe is coming right back.